And hello, and very good morning to you. We are joined by Monika Jankowska-Rangelov, State Street, EMEA Head of Inclusion, Diversity and Equity. Good morning, Monika.
Good, good morning. Hi, Łukasz. Hi, Sandra. Everyone.
Hi, Monika.
We're so happy to be able to hear you and see you, and let's just hope that the connection is stable throughout this conversation. We are also joined by Natalia Selinger, representing Luxoft, a Managing Director, HR Operations Director, Poland and Bulgaria. Natalia, good morning.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Łukasz. Welcome, Sandra, and of course, Monika.
Hello. We were also hoping that Sheena Minhas would be joining us from ABB, and that's the very reason why we started a little bit later today. So our sincere apologies for this delay at the beginning. Hopefully, Sheena will be able to join the conversation a little bit later, but I suppose it's time for us to start it. So, why don't we start with the very question underlying the topic of this conversation? What are we talking about here? Frozen middle. It's a strong metaphor, isn't it?
I think it is a strong metaphor, but at the same time, I perceive it like a little bit stereotype. So I think that we can move forward within the discussion about the stereotyping of the middle management. But from the very beginning, when I think about the frozen middle term, I think about the situation when we have a structure within the company. We have executive management. We have people who are making operational daily stuff to implement the structure, the strategy. And in the middle, we have people, we have managers, we have directors who are responsible for translating the strategy to the people who will make this daily task to implement it. So from one side, I can perceive it like discussion between executive management and middle management, and from the other side, I feel, and I suppose that it's about the people who can have some challenges related to the communication within the company. But of course, it's not only about this. So I would like to, pass my voice to the other people during the call.
Thank you very much, Natalia. Hello. We're finally happy to say you're with us. Thank you for joining, Sheena. Can you hear me? Hopefully you can. Tell me you can. No response so far. Well, hopefully we'll improve upon the connection as we speak. Monika, can we go back to you for a moment? Frozen middle definitely implies a degree of resistance somewhere, doesn't it?
Yes, and I would also like to add that, in my opinion, such an expression, the frozen layer of middle management, is a blame statement. We accuse these managers of doing something wrong or not doing anything, as if it was their fault. But actually, the real problem is the misalignment in the organization, because they are getting conflicting messages. Already Sandra mentioned that this is very much related to how the communication flows in the organization. So we need to realize that, having such statements or calling these middle managers as frozen, we are actually not helping them. We are not expecting them to be successful, and we are focusing on a challenge instead of solution. To be oriented on a solution and find the resolution to help the organization and help that group of managers, because definitely calling them frozen will not help anyone.
Well, exactly. It's stigmatizing, it's labeling, the very opposite what this conference is all about. And yet, for some reason, experts in the field see that this phenomenon is actually stronger than, say, a lukewarm response from the middle management. We are talking about frozen response. Well, luckily, we didn't have Sheena in the middle of the three windows, because otherwise it would be a double metaphor, would it not?
Well, I can chip in on that if you don't mind.
Please, absolutely.
I think that also shows our appetite for polarization in the conversation. Something can be hot or cold, right? And what Monika said, I think it's extremely important to keep in mind.
Good cup, bad cup.
Yes, it also applies to our relationship here. Yet I think I can just highlight the importance of what Monika said, that it's not about blaming, but actually defining certain phenomena in the organization where we are seeing misalignment, but also miscommunication and lack of support for those people, right? We have a strong support for top management. We expect a lot from the bottom, and there is a middle management left to themselves.
Exactly. Let's give it a try. Sheena.
Hi, good morning, all of you.
That's unbelievable.
Hi.
We finally have you, after delaying the start of this conference by about 10 minutes, to have you with us. We finally have a stable connection. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Touch wood.
Yeah, apologies for these technology glitches. We tried our best to solve them.
Yeah, and we have succeeded. You are, Sheena, a former Air Force officer, it's fair to say, turned
Yes.
HR expert. Well, it begs the question, what happened? Why? Why have you entered the HR territory and ultimately entered the D&I discussion with us today? Feel free
Oh,
to share a
fantastic.
bit of a personal story if you like.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me, and apologies for these technology glitches. So I have been one of the initial batches of female, and I'm from India origin, to join the Indian Air Force in the stream of fighter controlling, which was predominantly a very rare field where you would have any female coming in there. And when I joined in, it was a kind of a challenge that I wanted to do, and something different. And I also wanted to prove something to my parents, right? So when I joined in, it was obviously a very difficult thing, also from an acceptability to kind of continuously prove more and more and take on more to kind of establish that credibility that I'm here to succeed and I'm here to stay and I can do much better as comparison to the others. So that's where, my journey started in terms of striving for inclusion and bringing in that taking on the challenges head on, be it when I was posted in very remote locations or be it in terms of in a setup where it's usually a male-dominated, military environment. To have a female was also a challenge for them initially at that time to call us a lady or an officer or a madam or a sir. So that was the initial issues that I really faced when I started there. So I used to have a title call as a lady officer, and I said officer is an officer. It doesn't matter if you're a male officer or a lady officer. And that's how the journey began for inclusion and strive for inclusion.
Sheena, you said originally that your job in the past was fighter control. Would it be a fitting metaphor to say that today's management of D&I managers is also about fighter control in a way, you should say? Because now that we talk about frozen middle, it's the kind of environment where you have to address massive challenges in terms of really inspiring people, making them feel motivated and establishing or re-establishing credibility to the field, avoiding oversaturation, all those risks. What would you say?
I absolutely agree because, when you are in the air and you are actually engaged in a dogfight where you're, I'm talking about the language of now a military pilot, where
Well,
you
after
are
the
in flying.
recent incarnation of Top Gun, we are all into dogfights.
So when you are really up in the air and you're busy or engaged in and that's how we do in our operations, that once we get our projects or we get our directions, we are busy in terms of ensuring that how the crisscross is happening, how we are securing that our area is safe as well. At the same time, we have a target in mind that we would have to execute it. So it really works well in from a context, from a military point of view, where there is such a two-way flow of communication, very transparent, very clear, and really guides us in terms of where we have a limited view in terms of how we would like to, achieve our goals in that case. So it's kind of made it in that segment ways that if we are able to achieve. When I relate that in the corporate setup also, we need this operational field that is there flying in the middle of the sky and trying to achieve some targets for their accomplishments. that is something that is continuously happening for driving more collaboration, working towards having more communication, and ensuring that you're not getting lost, because the moment we get lost, we are resulting into a death fall or a death trap in this
And
case.
I suppose that's the reason why people love colorful metaphors, comparing their areas of expertise to other fields and other areas. Sheena, I'm sure ABB knew what they're doing, giving you the assignment. After all, they probably have a rule of thumb at ABB: never annoy Sheena, or you'll get a dogfight in return, I suppose. Thank you very much, Sheena. Let's go back to Monika and Natalia. We have diagnosed a little bit, saying that there seems to be some kind of labeling and stigmatization game going on. And that might be one of the reasons why we have a growing barrier, if that is really the case. So before we ask you what we do about it, what we should do about it, can we get a little bit deeper into the diagnosis? What is missing? Because to me, if we talk about a strong metaphor like frozen middle, there clearly is a problem with trust, there clearly is a problem with credibility, and a sense of authenticity. When, of course, all of that is connected with relatability. What's in it for me? I don't believe there's too much of it, maybe oversaturation. So help me out here. Can we diagnose it and prioritize the reasons?
I will go more with a focus not on that frozen middle, but rather on the top, because in my opinion, that the root cause is the lack of awareness and acknowledgement of the current organizational reality, if I say. Different layers of management have different perspectives, and this is clear, this is normal. But, the more you go up, more filtered access to information exists. So I think that we should really not look at the frozen middle and look for the solutions directly there, but rather fix the organization, how it's working, how it's collaborating, and how much they see what the problems are in the teams, in the operations regarding diversity and inclusion of it, and where the gaps are and exist towards employees with maybe non-standard needs, maybe expecting something else, because those, in my opinion, middle managers that we call frozen are those that are actually, struggling, and they are put in the middle of conflicting informations, because on the one hand they are getting goals, scorecards, they are looked at how they perform, how they deliver the product, what kind of a quality of the products, what kind of a quality of the production. At the same time, they need to respond to people issues, and need to understand what really the needs are within the teams, and they are not supported in that. They are very often missing that support from the top that is high flying. If we refer back to this military perspective, in my opinion, the top management is flying very high, not looking down at the earth where the real life is and the real organizational life is.
Thank you very much, Monika. We are talking, what we are saying here is, or what we're implying here, is that it's a certain set of people and functions where we're talking about a degree of resistance to the D&I conversation. Natalia, can I ask you, if we are indeed talking about a set, a more or less closed set, however the walls may be blurred, whichever way we may like it, who is in this group really? Because you remember we started the conversation about D&I, that it shouldn't be about HR only. We spread this responsibility. At the same time, we all know too many cooks spoil the broth, which is a good old proverb, always works. So who is in the frozen set? Let's continue the blame game here.
Yeah, you are right. So I just want to refer to your previous question, and I will answer the next question. I think it's about risk taking as well. So, if manager is not open to take any risk because maybe there will be some, some problems with failure. The company doesn't have any good approach when someone is doing a failure. It's a problem, right? And another story is about engagement, empowerment, and accountability, right? So I think these are terms we should always use when we think about this frozen middle and why it is in place. But when it comes to your next question and this frozen middle, for me, it's a layer between executive management and the people who are making this daily operational job. So these are team managers. It can be a functional manager. It can be even director, right? Who are in the middle and is someone who needs to translate what is the strategy and how to implement it to the team he is responsible for.
Let me make it a little easier here, because when we talk about different operational tasks that people perform on a daily basis, there is very clear understanding usually why they do what they do, because it leads up to certain tasks and projects meeting in a certain place and resulting in specific outcomes. So the understanding is clear and people take it for granted. I do it because this leads to several other processes meeting in one place and then offering the outcome. So is it fair to say that when it comes to D&I, this understanding is either not there or it's not convincing enough on the way?
I'm
Sandra?
smiling because it sounds like coming back to the business case for D&I.
It is in a way, because after all, we've reached a level where we start day 2 of this conference with the frozen middle metaphor. So obviously we can soften it whichever way we like, but I suppose if we have reached that level, all these areas are a problem, aren't they? Oversaturation, trust missing somewhere in the conversation. So how do we really regain both the business case and a heartfelt sense that I'm part of this conversation? It's important to me.
Great question.
I want to do it.
Well, so it's always about inclusion. It's always about how the voice of employees is heard in the company. So if the company respects all the employees within the company, there are for sure some tools how we can hear the message from the bottom, right? So for me, it's always about inclusion and always about respect. And if the company is the company which is like open for this, for sure there are tools supporting hearing the message from everywhere in the company.
And
Sandra?
a bit of the spoiler alert.
Please.
Our next panel will be exactly about tools to support the middle management. So stay with us.
And we already have 3 questions, ladies, so maybe we should start with those. Tomasz is asking, when we see the manager is frozen and does not want to unfreeze despite our efforts, persuasion, actions, what can we do? Let's start with that one.
Coach.
Sheena wants to offer a dogfight. Sheena?
Yeah, I think this is more like a metaphor that we say it is frozen and we want to unfreeze that. But what is important is to really reset with a lot of training, education, awareness, and at the same time bringing in the accountability and ownership to them.
Sheena,
because they are the
but-
ones in the front seat.
There's a big but here. I suppose we've all done a lot of work around education, raising awareness, but maybe the problem is, ironically enough, the problem is with the quality of this education, with the substance of this education, with the power of the examples and statistics and data and research. So maybe that's the problem, because if you oversaturate people with something, it's like, imagine you love eating bananas as a child, but once you start being fed with bananas 3 times a day, you will hate them after 3 days.
I think that it's very important not to exaggerate in terms of the number of trainings and the number of information, but rather convincing people and showing them why it's worth it. So again, when we are coming back somehow to the basics and the business case for diversity, these middle managers need to really get bought in, because they need to understand what will be the benefits for them personally, but also for their teams, how it will be translated into productivity, effectiveness of collaboration within the team, effectiveness of communication and exchange, because it will make their life easier. And once they adopt that way of thinking, so that's why I said previously coaching. Coaching is exactly this individual method where you can get people convinced, but they they develop that understanding. Not you are giving them something ready and you just push on them, but you make them consider how important and valuable it really is, because they are looking for the value in it. So
Mon-
I think that this might be one of the solutions, because we want them to understand and believe that this is worth it, extra effort, not only the production goals, but also and targets, but also set the targets in terms of diversity, what it would mean for the team, what would be best and most needed to address. And I'm sure they are experiencing
Monica,
people issues related.
Monica, I'm absolutely sure that you have given enough reasons for Sandra to give you a powerful response here in a moment. But you know what the problem with coaching, just like with so many other words which are popular in that context, is? Well, in the age when thousands of young graduates called themselves coaches before they even started their very first job, and the word itself has been so heavily overused, the credibility of the word coaching and the irritability behind it, it just almost instantly makes a lot of people annoyed when you say coaching. So that's one. Sandra, you wanted to comment.
Well, yes, because there was a... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to comment, they are diversity strategy and they are diversity strategy. So we can't challenge the quality.
Which, by the
We
way, is
should
a
be
Casino
challenging the
Royale
quality.
paraphrase, Monica.
But we need to deliver, best quality of coaching. So I'm much more talking about like executive coaching, business coaching, not like using the pseudo coaches existing everywhere, especially on social media.
The
Sorry,
moment
Sandra.
Monica reaches for a James Bond metaphor, you know things are going to get serious.
Well, I want to
So,
pick up
Lukasz,
on the
if I
specific
can
part of the
comment.
question asked by Tomasz, because Tomasz asked not what to do to bring those people on board, but what to do when the things we're doing are not working. So we're talking about a scenario where we've tried a lot already, perhaps also including coaching. And the question is, what do we do when we have people who doesn't want to get on board with us for that change? I would be very curious
so
to
maybe
hear
if I
your
can
point of view
try.
on that.
Okay, so maybe if I can put things in for Thomas for a perspective that, there's also the D&I is not a fad that we want to do something like that. The whole purpose that we are focusing a lot on this topic itself, we are also now in a space where the next generation of the workplace is coming into our offices, that the Gen Zers and so on. And we all know by our own experiences that they are not going to be defined or being a stereotype by the different dimensions that we're talking in diversity. So they are trying to drive in a very inclusive setup already with the Gen Zs coming in. And if the managers are not really wanting to change or being more inclusive, then they would definitely be on the losing inside, rather than being on the forefront of leading their teams towards more business goals itself. So I see that more like it's a burning platform that we need to kind of change our ways of doing things in terms of being more, future forward looking for regards to having more inclusive setups in our team, so that the new members who join in, they feel more part of the organization. Else we would be just limited and fading out into the entire growth trajectory altogether. So if that would kind of answer what Thomas is really looking for.
Thank you very much, Sheena, and I will allow others to respond, but also say that we have 4 minutes left and dozens of questions in the chat window. So if you want to comment quickly before we get into the questions.
If nothing else works, performance priority of the particular manager might be a solution, because if he's not convinced, but we still have expectations towards him, the only way is sometimes to use, some kind of a, let's say, organizational force, which might be the performance priority, and setting clearly what is expected.
All right. Natalia, any comment before we get to the questions?
Well, during this discussion, I had some thought related to the values. So if someone doesn't feel the value, it will be really hard to change it, right? So I would go even deeper with the thinking about how to influence the managers.
Fair enough. 3 minutes. Ladies, raise your pens and pencils and start taking notes, because I'm going to hit you with at least 2 questions at a time. Ready? Great. We have Marzena. What can we start with when it comes to D&I activities in blue-collar environment? What is your good case practice? And the second question, especially interesting, coming from Camille, don't you think that we as a community of DEI professionals have expert pride and expect managers engage their people even though they do not have knowledge and understanding? It's just putting new burden for mid-management. What say you?
I will start with the second one, if I may.
Oh, please go on.
Sorry. Definitely this is the case, because what I observe is that lots of our employees and also managers, like middle managers, are missing basic understanding still what diversity is. And I think that we just need to keep on doing our, things that we have agreed to do, which are the continuous teaching, the continuous awareness raising, and tireless efforts. Because if we stop and we say, okay, we are investing, but actually we are not getting any results, this is a vicious circle. We need to continue doing what we think is right in order to increase inclusion of diversity in the organizations. But we need to really focus on where the awareness is missing. So in our case, we know that this is missing among the managers that have got the most influence on the teams and their collaboration.
Natalia, you wanted to comment?
I want to comment the first question related to blue-collar employees. I think that it always works when we are engaging people from the very beginning. So of course some direction should come from top management. There should be some kind of policy, some principles related to diversity and inclusion. But if we are going down, we should translate it, of course, to their language, and I mean, it should be translated, and we should engage people to create their own vision, their own approach to the diversity and inclusion in the location, right? So I'm thinking about the global approach and local approach, and how to engage people. So how to engage people through engagement, right? So we need to create some kind of focus groups, some discussions circles, to make discussion around diversity and inclusion, to make it to increase awareness along the team.
Sheena, thank you, Natalia. Sheena, yeah. No, don't start yet. I know we have given you more than enough time to think about those 2 questions, but the nasty thing that I'm going to do is read 2 more questions and ask you to address those. Why don't we do that? Emily, especially given that our time has already run out, and the 2 questions I want to read out are super interesting. So just a quick response from each and every one of you. Emily, if top are strategic and bottom are direct operational delivery, are middle always coordinating the delivery of the operations? Is there something in the heaviness of the coordination that causes an issue here? And question coming from Paulina. I think DEI initiative is not something that can happen from day to day and be implemented in management tools right away. It is hard work within subliminal actions, raising awareness, but in more natural way, on daily basis, without many thinking about it. Don't you think?
Yeah, I kind of, when I take the first question, what I really think is the middle managers, they are not just only coordinating, they are actually the ones who are executing as well, because the strategy is lined up from a vision statement from a leadership point of view, but they are the ones who are actually orchestrating in terms of the day to day. And I would like to combine even the second question, that what she's brought in is valuable, because DNI is not something that you do like once a week or once a quarter or something like that. It has to be inbuilt into all the practices that we have, be it from the posting of a job requirement with regards to the job specifications, to the promotions, to development, everywhere that we are trying to ensure that there is equal opportunity ensured from across the organization. So it has to be lived in every aspect, even if with regards to communication, what we do, it has to be very inclusive. So it's something like the way we live the whole diversity agenda on a daily basis. And the middle managers is actually the operationalizing it, executing it, and they have to be empowered enough to kind of lead the actions with regards to, all the
Thank you.
actions that they have to drive from accounting.
Thank you very much, Sheena. We did promise you we would be able to show a slide that you wanted to share with us, but we're not going to do this because you might disappear if we try that trick. So thank you again. Natalia, Monika, any comments, especially to the second question, because subliminal is the key word here? Some deep thinking taking place. Yeah. And we wish a lot more deep thinking were taking place around this topic, because this is what it needs. It doesn't need superficial, shallow, dry metaphors. What it needs is deep thinking, relatability.
I agree.
For me, really important is that top management understands what's going on down there. And if the middle managers are overloaded and expected to match in terms of their capacity, in terms of their engagement, in terms of their capabilities and skills, and they are not given the adequate support and options to be able to somehow embed this diversity,
Monika,
activities, they will not be able to do it. But I fully agree with what Sheena said, that this is very much about also subtle, taking actions, reactions, also to problems existing in the organization, and providing that support in multi-layers, not only by D&I experts in the organization, but also all GHR and all the other legal compliance, everything needs to be working fine in order to give some kind of a breath and space for the middle managers to be able to also self-educate and be able to translate what is expected on this top level into more practical daily functioning of a team.
I wish we could have at least 90 minutes for this increasingly engaging conversation, Monika. But think about the language itself. Even when we say things like what's going on down there, it implies an ivory tower perspective and a potentially condescending approach, doesn't it? So one needs to be really careful with the language. At the same time, not be oversensitive, not to exaggerate with being too careful. Natalia, closing words are with you.
No pressure.
No pressure, but and I don't feel pressure, no worries. When I think about frozen middle and the stereotype, I'm always thinking about risk management. I'm always thinking about empowerment, always thinking about accountability. But it's always a matter of communication, values, and respect.
Precisely. And we couldn't end it on a more accurate tone. Thank you very much, Natalia, Monika, Sheena. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you, the three of you, luckily, joining us for the opening panel. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you, likewise.
Thank you.
And we are going to the toolset in a moment.